Welcome, everyone, to this Good Leadership Podcast. My name is Charles Good, your host and the president of the Institute for Management Studies. This podcast is designed to provide you with actionable insights and tools that you can use from discussing the research, stories, and background from recognized experts and practitioners to accelerate your impact in your current role. Well, welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Good Leadership Podcast. I'm so delighted to be joined by today two of the leaders at one of our great member companies, H&R Block. Jana Meyers is the Director of Talent Management and Organizational Effectiveness, has been with the organization over 7 years, and Kimberly Iorns is the Director of Talent and Learning at H&R Block, and she's been with the organization over 4 years. And today we're going to talk about what got them into this industry, why they're so passionate about learning and development, and all the great things that are happening with H&R Block. Welcome to the program, Kimberly and Jana.
Thank you.
Why don't we start with Jana? Just if you could give us some background on yourself and really what got you interested in going into this field.
Yeah, so I've been in financial services my entire career, in commercial real estate servicing, insurance, investments. And I think like many in talent development, I kind of just naturally morphed into this space. And so working with tax, again, more financial services, I got put into talent development position about 2007 at a former employer where I led the learning and support and consulting function for their call center. Liked it so well, I decided to get a master's in adult ed. So I did that in 2017. And it's just a pleasure. I found so much fulfillment in being able to develop others and contribute to their success.
Great. Thank you, Jana. Kimberly?
Yeah, so I started in retail and was a retail leader. And one of the things that I liked so much about my role was helping others to learn. So my transition into learning and talent development was from a job into, starting with learning and development as a trainer and teaching others how to do their work. And so at this point, I've been in some sort of learning and development or talent development capacity for, I think it's over 25 years at this juncture.
Well, that's great to have two individuals that are so passionate about learning and development. And I love to talk to you about H&R Block, where both of you now are currently directors of learning and development for. And perhaps I'll just direct this first to Jana. Tell me, if you could, some of the strategies that you're using to build a leadership pipeline at H&R Block.
So our group is managing our talent management cycle. We call it talent routines at Block. And it is a year-round type of process where we encourage really robust conversations about performance, aspiration, and career. And so our leaders have a set cadence of 2 quarterly conversations focused on those very elements. Plus, they do a mid-year and a year-end performance assessment. Our HR function at Block is called People and Culture, and our business partners in that function and our specialists stay close to those leaders in the organizations that they support. So they're really the frontline talent scouts, if you will, and they lead our annual talent planning. We're just finishing that up for the fiscal year. Our fiscal year goes from July to June right now. And so they work really closely with those organizations to identify talent. Something that I think is so critical, as I was able to share with the board earlier this year, is just thinking about that annual talent planning process. And this year, we've really revamped that at Block to make it a lot simpler to identify and develop our succession candidates. We're leveraging our HRIS in ways we haven't before to capture information and reporting. And most importantly, we work closely with the business partners and Kim and her team to continue to develop stronger support for those leaders who aspire to a higher role. So when we think about how we develop them, we have IDPs for each succession candidate. And Kim's group is instrumental in figuring out what's the right programming, what are the right leader programs, what's the right focus to support these folks who aspire to a higher role.
Thank you for providing that insight. Kim, did you want to add anything to that before we move to our next area of?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. I was going to say, so as Jana and her team have been working on the talent planning process and making it simpler. My team and I have been working side by side with her group because we're really trying to align, what we offer from a talent development standpoint and make it available at the right time. Because sometimes what can happen is, let's say you have a top talent program that starts before like year end is completed. A lot of times your business partners may not have a really good pulse on who they want to be considered for, for some of those programs, or, anything that might be by nomination. And so we're trying to really line it up so that we can partner with our people and culture teams to help them understand, like, what do we have available for the upcoming year? How can they bring that into those meaningful conversations with their associates as they're working on IDPs, as they're thinking about what's next for each person, and then create, on ramps, so that it's easy to align those with goals, so that it's easy to align with the development plans, and it kind of fits a little bit more nicely into kind of your annual process there.
No, thank you for providing that, because it's really important, like what Jana was saying, to keep it simple and for you to find these relevant and timely topics that really speak to the needs of your leaders. Are there any specific development topics which you are seeing an increased interest for in your leaders in the last 12 months?
Well, I think change is always something that's on people's minds, right? And so sometimes we'll find different ways to look at change. But that is certainly a perennial favorite. Influence continues to be one where, whether it's influencing through presentation or influencing others, is certainly really popular. And then I think particularly at Block, we just have a tremendous appetite to grow as leaders. And so people they'll get really clear on like what their opportunities are, and and might come looking for something super specific.
That's good, because if they have that appetite to grow and to learn, it really starts with the culture at the company, right? So what is that learning culture at H&R Block? Can you kind of unpack that for us and for our listeners?
Yeah, so we introduced earlier this year our Connected Leadership Pledge. And we believe being a leader at Block is a privilege. And so inside that Connected Leadership Pledge, there's a couple of different steps that involve everything from, showing up as a connected leader and using like your talent routines that Jana's team focuses on, to embracing our behaviors, to giving, straightforward feedback, as well as, focusing on your own personal development and, helping others in their development journey. And so I think the pledge really nicely describes our learning culture at Block, because it opens a lot of different doors. And what I love about it is, that can look different for any person, depending upon what's important to you. And you could be a great leader and still have plenty of room for growth inside our pledge.
Well, that's so important too with any organization, is that regardless of the place you're at, the leadership level, the amount of training you have, there's always a place to grow and opportunities for you to further develop. Love to kind of move into more of kind of, with IMS being one of your strategic partners, how did IMS really respond to your learning needs? And I guess I'll turn that over to Jana to answer first.
Yeah. So we've been a partner, longtime partner of IMS since 2015. And it's always been a great supplement to our leadership programs for both our corporate and our field leaders. And so some of the things that we've found most helpful: one, the specificity of topics. I mean, IMS is great about giving summaries and outcomes for any course up front. And most importantly, you get what's advertised and then some. And that doesn't always happen. Our leaders are busy, they're pressed for time like everyone else. So the ability in the last few years to do these virtually has also been a big plus for them. And we're loving the 1 hour complimentary sessions. And so I've been able to sit on a couple of those myself. For leaders, it's really part of that time that we should use to all sharpen our saws and continually develop. So I can't say enough about that. When I think about this fiscal year and I look at who has taken advantage of IMS, it's really been at all levels of leadership within Block. Everything from support managers to the field, to district managers, to our franchise regional directors, corporate program and product managers, We've had VPs of people and culture. So those courses really do speak to multiple levels of leadership. And, recently a suggestion from IMS for us was to share some of those complementary programs with our interns. We have a group of interns with us for a few months here over the summer. And so I think that's just a great application and a way for them to really see behind the curtain and think about how what they're learning and what they're aspiring to fits with what actually happens when you're in a leadership position.
That's great to hear. And as you know, both of you, I'm sure that IMS is really focused on application, getting something, for people to do something different, just not know something different. So that focus on application is so important to us. It's so important to all the leaders coming through our programs to make sure that we're giving them those practical tools, tips, and techniques that will make a difference in their everyday workflow. Do you find employees that have gone through these IMS programs, are they more productive, motivated? Are they applying really what they've learned? Have you gotten any success stories or maybe one individual that you can recall their story?
Yeah. So, I think it's always so great when we reach out to IMS and ask and express a particular need. We had a field leader recently who was looking for something to bolster his own leaders' development. And IMS was able to help us kind of parse out what offerings were coming up that spoke specifically to that need. To me, that's a success story in and of itself. She did end up taking the course, which was great. Our business partners, again, I can't say enough about using this IMS offer with their client groups. They're talking about using it as part of IDPs for sure. They also keep a close eye on gaps in leadership skill. And so this has just been a great way for them to kind of plug in different needs across an entire group and have more of a personalized development opportunity. As far as the senior leader sessions, I know you've just started those. I talked recently to someone who went to one of those, loved it, thought it was role appropriate for sure, and has gone out and bought the book. So she just raved about the content in that session.
It's always great to hear positive feedback and really that focus that we have driving forward, that focus, that application piece that we really want to ingrain in everything we do to get people to do something differently, not just know something different. And the other real differentiator with IMS is around just customizing programs to meet members' needs like your own. So it's great to hear that we're doing that. I didn't know if either one of you had any insights or what do you think are the upcoming new topics that your leaders are really needing or wanting to focus on, to have skills around, or you think that your business really needs a stronger set of skills within its leadership base?
Gosh, well, I mean, I mentioned it before. Change is always a popular topic and it comes in all different shapes and sizes, right? And so, one of the things that I really appreciate about the IMS classes is like the different angles. So while a topic may be similar, the different ways we're thinking about it and whether it's change or resilience or well-being, like that's certainly something on our audience's mind. Communication will always be something that is important to people in terms of like whether you're growing your style or adjusting your style. So I would, if I were a betting woman, I'd probably put some money on those two.
That's great to hear. We also hear a lot on AI right now, right? Have you seen the impact of that in any of the learning and development at H&R Block, or is that something that you're looking to integrate in the near future?
Well, I can talk for my team. We've started to kind of dabble a little bit in AI, and then a little bit less for learning and more for analysis on things like focus group feedback and kind of looking for trends and being able to be a little bit more predictive than reactive.
And for my team, as it relates to learning, we're playing a little bit with AI simulations and being able to practice client experiences using AI as as the person that would give you coaching and feedback.
Well, that's great to hear because I think that's going to be integrated more and more in the future from all I'm hearing and a lot of uncertainty about it, but I think there's a lot of potential within it as well. Love talking to both of you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to give us some insights in H&R Block, their great learning culture, all the great things they're doing for their leaders. Any final comments from one or both of you? Maybe a tip that you can impart to our listeners of just what you've seen working at H&R in terms of developing leaders and what you would like for someone to maybe start doing more of in the future.
I think about that Gallup stat about the engagement of employees being related 70% or more to their direct leader. And to me, that's just something I'm ever mindful of. And as a leader, you have the opportunity to affect someone's life. I mean, we can all think about leaders that we've been exposed to in the past that have left a lasting impact. And so for me, it's really all about how do we do that within our culture? How do we do that within the leadership pledge that Kim mentioned that we launched? And what does that look like day to day?
I love that, Jana. I love that. And I think if I were to add something to it, I would say, continue to be curious. Things, your skills are changing, the way we engage with others are changing so much. And one of the things that I love about our folks at Block is they are insanely curious and always looking for like that higher gear and in that opportunity to grow. And so when you combine that with an opportunity to learn from others, I think that's a really powerful combination.
Very well said, Kim. Thank you, Jana and Kim, for joining me today. And thank you for your continued support of IMS.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to share with others and post about it on social media. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which has video recordings of all the episodes of this podcast, along with bite-sized segments called single servings that are designed to answer your most pressing leadership and management questions. Remember, until next time, it's not what you know that counts, but what you do consistently that makes a difference.